We are live.
We are live. Okay, welcome everybody. We are going to start now. I think there will be some non-Danish speaker on that have at least have declared themselves as participating, so we do it in English. But welcome. Questions in Danish are very welcome, and they just be answered in English. You can put it into the Q&A. You can put it in there, and then we would answer the questions as they come up. There also came in some few questions before we started the presentation. But I start out with a few slides summing up what we're doing, and then we go into the Q&A session. So just share my screen, and you should be able now to see the presentation. And what we do is the same as we always done. We help a patient with cancer undergoing surgery to make a more precise surgery. We do it by lighting up the cancer so the surgeon are able to see all cancer and remove everything the first time. It's not a secret, unfortunately, that about 20 million people every year will be diagnosed with cancer, and surgery is the primary treatment offered to the patient when the cancer is found early on, and with a curative intent. I mean, with the intention to completely remove the cancer. And that means about 12 million patients per year will undergo surgery for cancer. And unfortunately, here is where we come in, is about half of them in average will have the cancer regrow locally. It depends on the different indications. In brain, it's 90 or to 100%, and in head and neck, it's 30 to 40%. So it's very much depend between indication to indication. But this is difficult for the surgeon to remove every cancer and all the cancer the first time, and that's where we help them. So our product, FD001, have two functions. One is that it offers precise surgery, and that's what I mentioned, that it light up and it helps the surgeon to remove all cancer the first time. But the other aspect of it is that if you increase the power of the light, you will actually see it also offer precise treatment, in the sense that it can heat up or destroy the cells chemically when you light on it. And that actually a way where you, with high precision, can actually remove the cancer cell while sparing the normal tissue around. So what we see is a trend in surgery. I mean, the population is growing and there's become more elderly people, and when they become more elderly people, there's also a higher demand for surgery, and because more people up in age get cancer. Relatively, we see a shortage of surgeons and also trained surgeons. And as many other fields, the technology interest into the field is what is needed to help and increase the productivity of the surgeons, but also the skills of them. And the numbers below is a different indications, the number of patients where we have relevance with our UPAR targeted fluo for. And you see brain and head and neck is two of the quite large one. Brain is including secondary cancer. I mean, when cancer spread from one organ to the brain, is included here because that is a need as well to help those patients undergoing surgery. The figures we presented here in the Q2, we had still some costs coming in from the 3 trials we finished up last year, and that was the last cost coming in for them. Is always when you finish up a trial, also some work after the trial has been completed, where you need to wrap up things, and there's some cost associated with that. But all those costs are now taken, and we had a raise. I mean, we increased the capital, had about 40 million Danish crowns, about 60 million Swedish crowns as a net proceed, gross proceed, and was a quite good round for us in the sense that we got new institutional investors on 86%, and then we have support for some of our larger existing shareholders. We have currently now 53.9 million in cash and cash preparedness, because included the credit facility and 25 million that we prolonged and paid out when we did the capital raise. So that means that we have a runway until end of 25, December 25, with the current plan. So we're quite in a good position, and well, open up for questions.
Thank you for that presentation, Morten. Maybe I can just start with a question regarding the Q2. Could you just go over the key events that FluoGuide had during this period?
Yes, the key event we had in Q2 was the capital raise, and what we have been doing from the very beginning is that when we raise money, we would like to make it easier for us to raise money the next time. And it sometimes means that it will require more work on the fundraise we do, but it's help us the next time. And one of the things that's been very important for us is increasing the number of institutional investors. And the reason for that is that provide security going forward, and it also is kind of essential for us to fulfill our long-term goal to be a leading company in helping precision surgery for patients. So we managed to have 3 new institutional investors in this round, that with the intent to look at us and see how we perform, and assuming we're performing well, they will kind of increase their shareholding over time. So this is a very nice thing to have been achieved, and we did it on a very small discount to the market price. So it was more than money. It was also supporting us going long term and developing the company. So we're quite pleased by this round. We also, I could mention, we also signed up a laser system for photothermal therapy, and that's why we provided some information on photothermal therapy as well as this photodynamic therapy in our quarterly report. We will cover some specific topics from time to time in our reports, and that was the topic of this quarter, where we provide more information.
Very interesting. So now that you're touching upon PDT and PTT, photodynamic therapy, and photothermal, could you elaborate on the difference between the two of these?
Yeah, I mean, the photothermal therapy, I mean, actually there's 2 aspects of it, and it's something that's been increasingly clear to us while we're working on it. I mean, the idea in the strategy we proposed in beginning of the year were that we should look more into the photothermal therapy to do some preclinical testing to find the right application, evaluate how it could be integrated into our development program, and which what can I say, features of it we should focus. And there are actually 2 aspects of photothermal therapy, you could say, or using FD001 as a photosynthesizer, what it's called. The one is the temperature. You increase the temperature by lighting on it, and you kill the cells by destroying them by heat. And the other one is that you're actually killing them by chemical reactions, and you will actually, I mean, you kill them chemically. So this is kind of the two aspects of it. And the one of them, the heat, that is quite fast in the clinical setting, but you would need some surrounding equipment to secure that you're not overheating the patient. Whereas in chemical, it takes longer time, but it requires less equipment around. So you can see the 2 of them support different applications, and that's what we're looking into, and why it's important for us to work with the laser and laser system, so we can adjust it to the right feature, or even combine the 2, which is also an option to make it even better effect. And that's all what we look into now.
Very interesting. So what is the outlook for the second half of 2024?
Yeah, what we did with when we raised the money is that we will start up a trial in head and neck, and we'll do the same in brain. And for the head and neck, that is being prepared now, so we're ready to submit it to the health agency. There's a new regulation coming up in Europe, so it's a little bit difficult to predict just 1 month or 2 months it takes, but it will be very short time we will be able to announce that. And when we do that, we also explain more about the design and the different applications there are within the head and neck. And the head and neck is from an what can I say, company perspective, interesting. That's many different applications we can go for. Some of them is very quick to the market, but contain a lower value. Some of them has take longer time to the market, but contain much what can I say, also higher potential. So this is kind of the mix we are working on optimizing now. The first trial will address those, and we will give more information about that in the next few months. So this is the first one. The next one is in the brain. There's 3 things we need in the brain. We need feedback from FDA on our development in aggressive brain cancer. We would need the initial data from an ongoing investigator-initiated trial on mini-glioma, low-grade glioma, and we would like to understand this photothermal therapy and how we integrate that optimal into the development program. So that will also be started here in the year. And next or be announced here in the year. And the next, what can I say, milestone that will come up will be data coming out of the trial, where the first start coming in next year. And then we will as well have additional partnerships. So we have entered in an agreement with Intuitive Surgical for head and neck. And it was, as you may recall, was a non-exclusive deal that did not contain money, but that leaves space for other vendors with other type of equipment that we could work with in the head and neck. And we would anticipate more of those deals coming in as well. So there will be some quite interesting value inflating points and news coming up in the next 6 to 12 months.
Thank you for that, Morten. You also made an addition to the management team after the end of Q2. Could you maybe elaborate a bit more on what Jens's role will be as a CMO in FluoGuide?
Yes, of course. I mean, when we started out the company, Andreas and myself, I mean, we had to have all the hats on, both of us. And of course, it's not sustainable for when you we're going to say build a company in a sense for long term. And as I had help from the CFO, Ole, Andreas also needs some help in the terms of the development side. He was taking care both of the scientific issues, but also the medical issues. And now we have hired in Jens Ehrlich, whom is a seasoned medical development person from a German citizen, and he will help actually us to spend more time on this, and which we need. I mean, we need much more contact to regulators, to clinical sites, to potential key opinion leaders commercially. So there's a lot of things to do for the medical persons. And I need time to free up to the business development. So it makes sense. We don't want to build a big organization, but we need some key people really into the organization on a senior side.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So a last question I have is regarding FG002. Will there be a CTA submission of FG002 in 2025? This is a question from email.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for that. I mean, yes, I mean, okay, 002, I mean, this is another fluorophore. It's a EI 800 fluorophore that is on this. It's the same kind of peptide, so still a U-part targeted peptide that binds this different fluorophore. This fluorophore is known to be more bright than ICG. That's one aspect, but it's also it's not the specification of it is not fitting so well to equipment. So there's some pros and cons with that molecule. When we put it into our pipeline, we put it into a pipeline for a number of reasons. One reason were that it's always nice to have a backup molecule when we are a drug development company, something could happen with our products. So it's good to have a backup molecule. We also thought that we could differentiate different applications, that we could sell the product, so to speak, multiple times. And we could be in a situation where we need a molecule that was more bright to get every equipment in function. What we have seen with FG001 is that we've been surprised positively on all aspects, I would say. We have seen a product that has been extremely well tolerated, both in preclinical testing, but also in humans. We've seen a molecule which, quite interestingly, is extremely bright, more bright than we actually expected. And we see it actually fits quite well into the different kind of equipment. It's using the spectrum of ICG, which equipment can see. And that is the same for FG001. And we also have seen that we're able to do this non-exclusive deals that we did with Intuitive, which means we actually can sell it multiple times. So for now, you can say we either have to put up money into doing a CTA for FG002, or we have to put into another application or advance FG001 toward the market. So for now, we prioritize moving FG001 faster to the market and in more broad applications, because of the data we've got in. So I would say 002 is on the shelf right now, but of course it could be taken down, but I think it's more likely we will take down a molecule that is more specifically for the photothermal therapy, because FG001 works so well for thoracic guided surgery, much better than we anticipated when we started.
Thank you, Morten. So we just got some questions from the Q&A function, and the first is regarding the capital situation in relation to including more partners in a head and neck phase 2. How would that look?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at a whole range of different opportunity. In the head and neck, and we will explain more about this when we submit the application for the first trial. But in the head and neck, there are multiple applications, and as I mentioned before, some of them are quick to the market, but with a lower value, and some of them take longer to the market, but with a higher value. Some of them also is combined with different kind of equipment. You have those deeper located cancer, where, for instance, the robot system for Intuitive is very useful because you can get multiple arms into the throat from this robot, which you not otherwise can be able to do. Some systems is scope, where you get one scope down. It can be used some in the middle, and then you have microscopes that have possibility to see more detailed tissue. So all of the different equipment kind of have different applications as well. So in combination with this, we could envisage multiple tracks in head and neck, and we could envisage multiple deals in head and neck, and we could also envisage different funding in the head and neck. So we could take more of them funded by partners. We could take it funded by raising capital, or it could be a combination. The good thing here is that when we have multiple partners around the first clinical trial, then it will be obvious to make this discussion with them following the result of the trial, going into the next one. And this is already ongoing, of course. We've seen some of them have actually invested into a company of our kind. We see much more interest from into the space in general, and we see that we see really high interest in actually co-develop this, you can say, as a big partner, which we have not seen so much in the very start, where there be more a passive approach to it. Is much more proactive and active now. So I think that there would be possibility to actually also fund the whole program with the partnering. The thing what one always should bear in mind is that it has to be balanced out, because a partner deal is also a dilution. So they will take some of the profit, some of the value of it. And if you partner too early, too aggressive, all the value goes to the partner. So it's always a balance. And I think that you should be rest assured that we will try to optimize that between the raising cash and partnering in a way so we maintain the most value for our current shareholders.
Sounds good. So in continuation of this with the capital raise, how do you see a capital raise regarding a phase 3 study? Do you think that it will continue in the same pattern as we have previously done?
Yeah, you could see one scenario where we have a partnering deal funding everything, so that would be the last funding. Another possibility, you can see that we raise it all ourselves. Those two scenarios, and then a lot of combination in between. I think as a general thing, what one should think of is, if it goes very well in a company, we require more capital. It makes sense to invest more into it, and we'll raise money. So you could even see that if you could fund a phase 3 program from a partner, we'll still raise money to accelerate the development. And if you are, if you do not raise money and you do partnering, you are squeezed up in the corner. So you need funding when you do the partnering. So that's always the balance. But the good thing is that options are open from two extreme, no funding to a lot of funding that are required. And we will, of course, look at the market, look at what will come up, and follow those signals, as we always done.
Sounds good, Morten. So what can the shareholders expect of validation regarding PTT and PDT and how it works?
Yeah, we already now know that we have animal trials showing that if you heat up the tissue, you can kill the cancer tissue in the mouse, but you cannot without the damage the normal tissue around. So this has always been proven. Of course, you can say you cannot directly go from a mouse to a man, but when you do it with this more, let's say, low-tech physical phenomena as temperature, it's much more predictable from animal to man than it would be if it's a complicated chemical or biological mode of action. So the predictability is high. That's one thing. Another thing is that we see this LIT system, which is a laser ablation system, where you can put in a laser into the brain and just heat and kill it. So you can say that is also a possibility. And then you have our offering, which is a way where you can actually reduce the temperature to a way where you do not damage the tissue, and then just kill the cells that has FD001 bound to them. So the likelihood of us being able to show that in humans is extremely high. What has to be balanced against is the side effect that we create and how long time it takes. For instance, do we have to apply it for an hour, 5 minutes? That would mean a lot for the application and type of patient we go after. So it has to fit together how we optimize the dose, how we optimize the application, the temperature and the chemical destruction, and that will all influence, the application going forward. So answering your question on how we can see what kind of validation, it very much be the balance between the effect and toxicity we can see and how we optimize that in the laser system. And that would be, of course, done first in animals here during the year. And then there will be the plans for how to go into clinical trials. It will be published at the same time. So I think that you could get a risk reduction, which is a key thing to increase the value and for the company and shareholders.
Thank you, Morten. So another question is regarding the partners. So you mentioned a couple of partners that you are in dialogue with. Are all these within head and neck, and are there interest from multiple partners in the same application, or how does this look?
Yeah, one of the things we've seen in doing the partnering, we if we should make it simple, we could do a partnership with a small vendor, and it would be much more easy for us to do such a partnership and flexible for now. But we will not have the same value down the road with such a partner. The big medtech companies are able to push it into the market. They could help us distribute our product, but they can also fund some of the development, and they can actually as well integrate it into their equipment. So it's long term, it's much more valuable for us to do the partnership with the large manufacturers than it is with the small ones. Many of the large manufacturers are often into multiple indications. So take Intuitive, for instance, they are in prostate, they are in bladder, they are in lung, they are in gastrointestinal. So they're not just not only in head and neck, they are in many different indications, and will make a lot of sense that we see the collaboration head and neck as a kind of entrance into many of the other areas and work with them on this. And that's how we see the partnering, that we want to see the head and neck entrance into other indications. We also prioritize the last large partners for the reason I just mentioned. It takes a lot more time to do partnership with them. But again, everything we do, we try to do that the best for the company looking long term. And it's absolutely the best for the company long term to do this large manufacturer partnering. So when you ask for if it's only head and neck or also brain, it's actually a combination of them, but also other indication beside that.
Okay. So another question is regarding what we can expect of these can we expect any of these partnerships in the coming 6 months?
Working with them, because they're the big ones, is very difficult to predict exactly when we can announce it. What is very important is that we work with them, a couple of them already now, to integrate them into the trial and using the equipment. And I think that beside Intuitive, and that's a key thing for us as a company. Of course, it would be nice to tell you everything about it, but we cannot do that before we can announce it. And if that comes in 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, I'm not sure. But I think it pretty likely will come in the next 12 months, a couple of deals announced.
Okay. So a lot of questions is regarding these partnerships, and one is regarding the internal work with Intuitive Surgical, whether that is something that is happening at the moment, or are they just assisting FluoGuide with like their current instruments, or can you elaborate a bit on the collaboration that is going on?
Yes, I can. It's first thing is that many of the partners is very very competitive for many of them. I don't want to disclose what they're doing necessarily, and the big ones don't necessarily disclose those what to say for them the pipeline applications they come up with. And the deal we're doing with Intuitive, or the collaboration we're doing with Intuitive, is no secret, no different for that. They want to keep it quite closed and don't want too much information to come out about exactly what is contained in this collaboration. But the idea of it is that it's not just something paper on we can say letter on a paper. The collaboration really is to co-develop our product into some of their equipment, optimize the two together, use their system in our application, head and neck, the deeper located cancer. And of course, as all this kind of collaborations is stepwise. I mean, we take one step first where we look into the bench testing and integration of it, and then we look into the clinical trials, and then we move forward from there. So it always, like a marriage, I mean, you have to start somewhere. You don't get married the first day, and that's the same with Intuitive. We work very much very close with them, and there's a lot of activity going on, and it's not resource free for them to work with us. They actually put in quite a lot of resources as well in their clinical department, in their technical department, and so forth to make all this happen. And that's also why it takes some time to do this deals, because we need to get into their whole flow of work and regulatory process, not least. So it's answering the question on Intuitive, it goes really well. We have a lot of activity going on, but exactly what we are doing, I mean, I cannot say much more than we actually integrate the two systems together and work very much on the deeper located cancers in the head and neck.
Thank you for that. So another question is regarding that you said that focus is on high-grade glioma and head and neck cancer, but that there is currently a study in low-grade glioma going on. Could you elaborate on this?
Yeah, I mean, there's an investigator-initiated trial going on in meningioma and low-grade glioma. That's true. We do not put so much information out of that because our policy is that when it's an investigator-initiated trial, it's not on our control. I mean, we deliver medication for the trial and of course collect safety data and so forth, but we do not we have not control of the trial, so the speed of it and so on. So we do not promise anything about it, but it's an important one nevertheless to gain information about how the product works in these indications as well.
Okay, thank you. So in relation to a phase 3 study in high-grade glioma, when do you expect to see the first results on this indication?
Yeah, this very much depends on the feedback from the FDA, because there could be multiple paths there as well. The path that is the quickest is also the most risky, and the path that takes a longer time is the most predictable. And in order for us to jump into one of the two, we would like the FDA feedback before putting that forward to everyone. We don't know it ourselves before we have the feedback from FDA, and that's what we're working on getting. So I would prefer to give more information as soon as we get this feedback.
Could another scenario be that it wasn't high-grade glioma that was the first indication with a phase 3 result?
Of course it could. I mean, it could be that it could be photothermotherapy taking over. I mean, the program FDA suggested us doing was very much a program that will be suited for the photothermotherapy. And you can say if we make that investment, it would be better to put photothermotherapy into that program than it would just having fluorescence-guided surgery. Of course, so it's a scenario, but I think that most likely it will not. Most likely it will be what can I say? It will be high-grade glioma. I think that is an indication with the huge need. We see the product work extremely well, clear measurements in the clinical trials. But as said, we would like to have the feedback from FDA. And I think it's one thing that's important for us is that it's much better that we take a little time now to be sure we get it right than we do a phase 3 and fail. I mean, this is a catastrophe for any company going into that direction, and we won't do that.
Fair enough. So a last question is if you could tell something about how big the share of institutional and big external owners are at the current moment.
Oh, that's I think it's 18 to 20% roughly is institutional, and maybe a little bit more actually, 20 to 25. I need to look it up. Sorry for that, but around that percent.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we're all out of questions now. I at least don't have any more in the Q&A.
Okay, well, then. So thank you very much for your questions. Should you have any other questions, you're always welcome to send them to our email, or you send it to me. You're welcome to do that, and we will answer them. We prefer answering the question when we do it openly, so everyone can hear it. But of course, put them forward, and we want to be accessible and answer whatever questions you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.